Hi everybody, I'm Joanne DiMarco and I'm going to show you how to make turkey chili. We only need a few ingredients for this. We need a can of black beans. We need a can of diced tomatoes. We need either one big can or two small cans of tomato sauce. We need chili seasoning mix. Now they make these hot, mild, regular. I like to use 1 packet of mild and 1 packet of regular for my turkey chili. And then of course we need the actual ground turkey. I like to use a 93% lean, 7% fat, because I think it gives it more flavor. So one of the first things we're gonna do is we're gonna use a pot that's bigger than what we really need. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So I've got the pot going on the stove. And the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna open up our turkey. So once I get the turkey, I'm gonna take the knife and I'm gonna score the turkey just like this so that it cuts up the turkey a little bit. This way we don't have to break it up as much once it goes in the pot. Now, our pot's getting nice and hot. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take this turkey and we're gonna put it into the pot. Okay, once we get the turkey in the pot, I'm gonna try to make it so you can see a little bit what I'm doing here. I'm gonna get the turkey spread out in the bottom of that pan as much as I can. See how it kind of covers the pan? The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the seasoning mix and I'm gonna put the seasoning mix right on top of the turkey. And I'll tell you why I'm doing this. We wanna layer the flavors in the turkey chili and we wanna give them like some deliciousness before we even start adding the sauce. So by browning the turkey and getting a good, like nice brown on all the bits of turkey, it's called caramelization. And what it does is caramelization adds flavor. So we're gonna do that. We're also adding the spices now because we want the spices to toast, or sometimes they call it bloom. And basically what it does is it lets the seasonings do their thing and get another layer of flavor. So what I've done is I put it right on top of the turkey right now, and I've kind of spread it out so that when we go to flip this turkey, the seasoning is gonna go into the pan as well. So we're gonna let that get a little bit brown. We don't wanna burn it, so we want to keep an eye on it and make sure that it's not getting too crazy. Now I've gone ahead and I've already opened up the cans and we'll add those once we've browned the turkey and bloomed the seasoning. So I'm gonna go in there and start to move that turkey around a little bit because it's starting to brown. But I want to continue to get as much contact with the surface of the chili with the pan. So I'm going to flatten it as much as I can so that as much of that turkey, as much of that seasoning hits that heat from the pan. The heat is like magic in this turkey, because what'll happen is, I'm going to take this off the stand for a minute. What happens is, you can kind of see, it's the heat that does the magic for you here. Because anytime we brown something, we add flavor. Anytime we open the seasonings, we add flavor. Okay, so you can't rush this process, by the way. Listen, you can also use your own chili seasonings. You can go ahead and make it hot and spicy if you like to have it hot and spicy. My family likes it with a little bit of kick, but not too much where your mouth is on fire. I have one child that likes it that way, and she just kind of adds her own like jalapeno juice in it or a little extra hot sauce. You can, like I said, you can make your own seasoning blend. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible because, you know, let's face it, go in the grocery store, grab a couple things. If it gets too involved, you wind up not doing it at all. And then you wind up buying turkey chili in a container that somebody else made. Now I'm gonna give this another stir because I think it's probably, it's starting to get caramelization on that layer. Now as I turn this around, again, I wanna make sure that I'm dislodging all the little bits from the bottom because that becomes the flavor of the dish, really. Sometimes you have to get in there with a spatula to really get those bits off. And you can kind of see what I'm doing in here. You can see the meat's getting caramelized. The seasonings are toasting up nicely. And we're setting the tone for what that chili is going to become. Now, once we start adding the liquids in here, we will reduce the heat. But right now, I've got that heat on really high because that's what happens when you sear the meats. You want a nice high, really intense heat. If you have an electric stove, you want to put it on the high setting. Same with a gas stove. But you can use either gas or electric. Doesn't matter for this. You just want to make sure it's nice and hot. Don't cheat this process. It's funny, I have one of my kids wanted the recipe for the turkey chili. And after she made it a couple times, she says, Mom, it just doesn't taste like yours. I said, are you browning the meat and are you blooming the seasonings? Because if you're not, that's important. She's like, well, I didn't think I really had to do it. I thought I could just put everything in. Well, you can, but you're not going to get those flavors, and that's why it doesn't taste the same. So that's what I'm saying. You want to make sure you're getting this done and not rushing this process, because if you rush it, the flavor just won't be there. Now this meat is gonna soak up a ton of flavor from the sauces as well, but it's really got that seasoning right in there. Just a couple more seconds probably, and we'll be ready to add the rest of the ingredients. Now, what we're gonna do with this, I like to serve this with some cheese on the top. I also like to, instead of sour cream, to keep it healthier, because you know we're doing turkey here, to keep it on the healthier side, I like to put some Greek yogurt in there. So I'll put Greek yogurt on the side, some cheese on the side, and then I like to serve it with cornbread. But I always feel guilty with cornbread because it has, you know, you always feel like, it's too indulgent. But I found a really cool cornbread mix. It's made by Kodiak. Let me grab it. So it's a high protein, whole grain cornbread mix. So I'm gonna make this when it goes out with dinner tonight. All right, so this is what the meat's gonna look like. I'm gonna turn the heat off for a sec. This is what the meat's gonna look like before you put the tomatoes and things in. Now, the first thing I put in is my black beans. I don't drain the can. I use a little bit of that liquid from the black beans to help, what we say, deglaze the pan. What that means is all those little bits and flavor that's stuck to the bottom of the pan, it needs a little liquid to dislodge it and to add it into the sauce. So I use, you can see, the liquid from the beans is helping me get everything off the bottom of that pan so nicely so we can incorporate all that yummy flavor into it. All right, so we got that done. The next thing I'm gonna do is I add the diced tomatoes. And again, I start with the things that are more liquidy and then I go to the things that are thicker. You don't have to. By the way, I am using right now fire roasted diced tomatoes. You don't have to. I happen to find these. I found them in Target, as a matter of fact. And they're delicious. They're organic, they're fire roasted, and I've been using them in my tomato sauce when I make sauce for a pasta or whatever, but I also started using it in the chili. All right, so now I'm gonna get my heat back on again. This time, I'm gonna go more to the medium range because we don't wanna burn this chili, but we do want it to get bubbly because we want some of this water to evaporate as the flavor concentrates. All right, I've got my diced tomatoes in there. The next thing I'm putting in, again, it could either be one big can or it could be 2 small cans of tomato sauce. And again, doesn't matter what kind of tomato sauce. I like to use good ingredients whenever possible, but you know what? If you don't want to use organic, you want to use the store brand, you can sure do that as well. Won't really affect the flavor that much. It just feels good to me. So again, 2 cans of the sauce in there, 2 small ones. Now, I'm gonna give this a good old stir and incorporate everything in there. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm incorporating everything into this pot. Now, again, it's on a medium heat. We want this to bubble and we want some of this liquid to evaporate. So what I do is I take one of these splatter shields because I don't want this to go all over the place. That's one of the reasons I put it in a pan, in a pot that's bigger than what I really need, because this way, if it starts to bubble, it won't make a mess in the kitchen. Again, a splatter shield, it'll allow the liquid to evaporate, but it won't make a mess all over the kitchen. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video now because we're gonna let this cook, and it's gonna cook a minimum of an hour. Sometimes I even go like 1.5 to 2 hours because I really like those flavors to concentrate. But again, it's key to have, here, let me lift this up so you can actually see the flame. So it's a medium heat, covered. We'll come back to this in a little while. And when we do, you can see how it is when I take it off. Now, you don't want to just ignore it for an hour. You want to make sure you're getting in there about every 10 to 15 minutes and just giving it a stir, making sure stuff isn't sticking to the bottom and getting some of that, kind of acrid burn flavor. We don't want that. Caramelization is good, burn is not. So we're gonna go ahead and leave it, checking on it to give it a stir, and I'll be back with you when it gets time to take it off the heat. All right, thanks. Okay, we're back and the chili is done. So I want you to see what it looks like when it's done. So here we go. And here's the consistency on it. So you want it to be not runny. You want it to have a good thickness. You also want it to see it darken in color. So instead of that bright red from the tomatoes when we first put it in, it now has more of a dark, almost like a brick red color. That's when you know it's done. When the consistency is there, as well as the color. So the chili is done. It's just gonna go in a big bowl. We're gonna top it with some shredded cheese and some Greek yogurt, and we are good to go. Some of you might wanna take some leftovers tomorrow, take some tortilla chips, put the chili on top of that, sprinkle some cheese on it, and go to town with some chili cheese nachos. All kinds of stuff you can do with the chili, even on a baked potato. Turkey chili goes a long way and it's super healthy. So enjoy. Bye now.